Welcome to this 5-minute moment from Power to Rain Ministries. This is brought to you. We are located at the beautiful campus of the University of Southern California, Truesdale Parkway 3501. Last time we were with you, we were talking about the freedom that comes from the smoke-free anointing. We're going to continue in that path. Last time we talked about how God has a desire to let you go through life free of the smoke and haze of past trials by fire. Now, as believers, we go through trials by fire, but I stated that we go through the fire. We don't necessarily stay in the fire, meaning that after God brings us out, we're supposed to have revelation and new information from that trial by fire we went through, but our perceptions and our expectation is not to change in any way, shape, or form. Last time we talked about how Peter had lower expectations because of this mistake that he made. Now, our base text was in Daniel chapter 3, verse 27, when it says that God brought out Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they didn't even smell like smoke, meaning that you couldn't even tell that they had been through a fire in any way, shape, or form. All right, so God expects us to walk through life like that. That means that people won't even know that you've been through anything until you tell them your testimony. They won't even know that you suffered anything until you share with them how God had brought you through. Now I'm going to pick up in Acts chapter 7, and I'm going to go to Acts chapter 7, verse 20. All right, so now it says, in which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And then when we drop down to verse 22, it says Moses was learned. He was educated. But he was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in both words and in deeds, meaning that he was mighty in what he could do, and he was also mighty in how he talked. He was very eloquent. He was mighty in both words and in deeds. Verse 23, and when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel, and seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended them and avenged them that was oppressed and smote the Egyptian. For he supposed, now this is what I want us to pay attention to, he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God by his hand would deliver them, but they understood not. They understood not. And as a result of them not understanding him, as a result of them not understanding his calling, he went through a trial by fire where he had to flee. He had to go because they said, are you going to kill us like you killed that Egyptian? When he heard that, he knew he was in trouble, and he fled. He ran away because people didn't understand him, and sometimes people don't understand us. Sometimes people don't understand what we're called to do, and that was a fire that Moses went through. So now we pick up 40 years later. 40 years later when God comes to him, and I'm going to pick up, let's see, I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3, I'm going to pick up in verse 16. God comes to Moses, speaking to him from the burning bush, and he says, now's the time when I expect you to deliver my people. Now's the time for you to step into your calling. Because in spite of what we go through, God will not change his mind about us. God does not change his mind about our calling, and he still has an expectation of us to do what he wanted us to do in the first place. But Moses answers and said, in chapter 4, verse 1, it says, Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. Wait a minute. I thought we just saw that Moses supposed that they would expect for him to walk in his calling. He's still smoking from 40 years ago. Where did he get this idea that they won't believe him? He actually said they won't believe him or listen to his voice. When God told him to deliver the people, Moses' response was, who am I? What do you mean, who are you, Moses? He said, who am I that I should deliver your people? Who am I? Who are you? That means that Moses actually forgot who he was because of what he went through. We cannot forget who we are. We cannot forget our calling, and we cannot forget the expectation that God has for us. Moses was the same person he was before he went through the trial by fire that he is now. So when he said, who am I that I should deliver your people? You're the same Moses that you were before. You're the same person that you were before. So allow God to bring you in remembrance of who you are. Allow God to bring you in remembrance of what you're called to do, and walk in that anointing, smoke-free of the haze in the past. This has been our 5-minute moment. Feel free to join us on the beautiful campus of the University of Southern California. Be blessed.